welcome back to Elden Ring. In this video we're going to be taking a look at another three more of the best intelligence weapons in the game. These are going to require a bit more strength than the ones we covered in the last video. And just quickly before we get into the weapons, if you're not currently subbed to the channel, make sure you do sub, turn notifications on. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, all support is greatly appreciated. And if you want to support me further as a creator, then check out the links in the description. And let's get into the weapons. So, starting off with the first weapon, we are going to be taking a look at Death's Poker. So with this weapon, you will see that it requires 15 strength, 17 dex and 11 intelligence. It doesn't really scale too well with intelligence, but it is still there. And even though it's a poker, it's classed as a greatsword. This is like the greatsword edition of the intelligence weapons. And another thing I really like about this one is it does cause frost build-up at a rating of 65. So you will be better off building into strength more than intelligence with this one. The FP cost isn't too high, it's 15, but if you see in brackets it's got 10 and 10. That's because you can do a follow-up attack, and you can proc something different with Ghost Flame Ignition. When running intelligence weapons, I would always just any build go with Shard of Alexander. It greatly boosts the attack power of your skills. I would also run the Ritual Sword Talisman to raise the attack power when your health is maximum, or at maximum. Marika's Sourcil increases 4 of your stats by +5 each. Those 4 stats will be Mind, Intelligence, Faith and Arcane. Then I also go with the Stargazer Heirloom because personally my intelligence is quite low, so this buffs your intelligence or boosts it up by +5. That's how my intelligence is at 44. With the Flask of Wondrous Physic, I totally recommend the Intelligence Not Crystal tier that will boost your intelligence by 10, and the Magic Shroud in Crack tier, which will temporarily boost your magic attacks. The Flask will last 3 minutes, and a lot of the time, me personally, I don't know about any of you, let me know in the comments, I don't actually use my Flask of Wondrous Physic anywhere near as much as I should. But what we're also going to do is we will use any seal in the game, doesn't matter which one, but you're going to want to get hold of the Golden Vow incantation because it's going to boost your attack and your defense. That will last for 90 seconds. So drink your flask, proc your Golden Vow. To get your hands on Death's Poker, in Caelid, if you come down to the Southern Aeonia Swamp Bank, you make sure that you pass time until it's nightfall. Then over to the southeast, around this sort of area, you're going to see one of the, I think they're called Deathrite Birds. It's a boss that's going to spawn in only at night time, and once you kill it, you will get Death's Poker. One thing to bear in mind with the Deathrite Birds, and this is any of them in the game, use holy damage. They are weak to holy damage, and with something like the Sacred Relic Sword, Marika's Hammer, even just Sacred Blade, which is an Ash of War, you're going to deal a lot of damage to these Deathrite Birds, and it's just going to be so much easier to take them down. But take down that Deathrite Bird right where we are on the map, or like that's his rough sort of location. Get your hands on the Death's Poker, and then, if I don't dash backwards, I don't know if you guys have noticed, I seem to do that quite often in my videos. But what we're going to do, we're up at the Isolated Merchant Shack, just because the enemies here are quite strong. It's these, like, stray dog things, the weird looking ones. So if I drink my flask, and I proc Golden Vow, it's going to be a little bit tricky to pull this off. But if we come over here, and I use my left trigger, it's going to spawn this ball. And it will explode and deal damage. You'll see 5300, that's quite good. But the thing is, if you do your left trigger, you've got, if the round just gets out my face, go away. So again, left trigger, it spawns this like ball, and it explodes. However, stop staring at me dude, it's creepy, thank you. If you do it, so left trigger, and then you follow up with a right bumper, if it lets me do it, you'll see that it casts a line of flames. And then, go on, oh, you could have been stupid enough to run into that. No, don't come at me. However, if you do your left trigger and then your right trigger, it slams into the ground and it makes that explosion a lot bigger. So if I quickly down a cerulean flask, I come over to this guy, I'm going to try and do the big ground explosion. I mean, it's probably not going to work. These are so aggressive, and I'm fat rolling. Might be my only opportunity. So there we go, 2400, but it's knocked him back. And then also, if I do that and then do the right bumper, it chucks out that line, and he got absolutely ruined. So that's why I like Death's Poker, because not only do you have your standard left trigger, and it does this like really small explosion, you can also do left trigger on a light attack, and if it works, I don't know why it doesn't work all the time, but you can spawn a line of flames. And they're white flames. I think they're really, really cool. But then left trigger and a heavy attack, and you slam it into the ground, and it deals a lot of damage. So that's weapon number 1, Death's Poker. Absolutely love this thing, especially for an intelligence build, even though its scaling isn't prioritized with intelligence. So weapon number 2 is going to be the Dark Moon Greatsword. This one is obtained by doing Ranni's quest line. Again, another great sword. The FP cost is really high on this one. I'm not sure if you'll want to run Carian Filigreed Crest to knock that down to 30 if I quickly equip it. So Carian Filigreed Crest, it goes from 40 down to 30. I wouldn't say it's really worth it. You might want to, but obviously I'm trying to boost my intelligence and make this even stronger. So you'll see it's got decent physical and magic attacks, or the attack power at least. It's got a B intelligence scaling, so it's much better for intelligence stats than what the Death's Poker is. However, looking at the requirements, 16 strength, 11 dex and 38 intelligence, it's quite high on the intelligence. But this sword is fantastic for the range. Because if we drink our flask, we proc Golden Vow, and then we use the skill that's going to cost 40 FP, after you've procced your sword with that, if you right trigger, you send out these horizontal like arcs. And if I can actually get an attack off, okay, for some reason it's not working anymore. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Give me a break. Let me reset. So again, Flask, Golden Vow, lock onto this guy, and then right trigger. There you go. So the range isn't amazing, but it's still pretty good. And he's now dead. I almost died, as I normally do when I'm showcasing stuff in this game. But you'll see, it's a zero cost. Once you've procced it and you've used that 40 FP, for as long as this stays procced, I'm not entirely sure how long it is. It might be like 90 seconds or something. I'm not entirely sure on how long it does last, but all it is that initial 40 FP, and once you've used that, for as long as it lasts, you've got these like arcs of frost damage, whatever you want to call it. Because if we have a look at the weapon, it does also, like the Death's Poker, have a passive effect where it causes frost build-up. So this, again, for an intelligence... I swear to God, these rams. See, that's the only problem I see with it. It kind of just goes in like a straight line. But I think it's really, really good. It deals a lot of damage, especially, like, the more you spec into intelligence, the stronger these are going to be. If you reach the soft caps, which go up to 80, you're going to get these really, really powerful. And then it all depends on your talismans and everything like that. One other thing I'd like to point out with these as well, if you look at how much they weigh, they are quite heavy. Obviously they're going to be quite heavy, they're great swords. But I mean, the last weapon we're going to look at, number 3, yeah, it's quite stupid for its weight. But the Death's Poker, 8.5. The Dark Moon Greatsword is 10. They're not too bad, especially for great swords. Then we have the final weapon, Royal Greatsword. It weighs 20. So this is heavier than both Death's Poker and the Dark Moon Greatsword combined. If we take a look at this one, Wolf's Assault is 20 FP for its cost. You'll see this scales really nicely with magic. It's got an attack power of 308 for magic. The requirements are a little bit higher. 26 strength, 22 intelligence, 18 dex. Dexterity is a D scaling, strength and intelligence a C. This one is obtained by making a lot of progress in Ranni's questline as well. But with this sword, it has a fantastic skill. Wolf's Assault is really, really fun to use. So if we jump out of the menu, and we are going to, again, use our flask. Then we're going to proc Golden Vow. We're going to come over to this same enemy, and we're going to use the skill. and 3760, which isn't bad. I almost died there. Look at the state of my health. So with Wolf's Assault, if I use my left trigger, you do this like really cool flip and you slam it into the ground and then you lift it up and explode it. And I just absolutely love it. It deals a decent amount of damage. As I said, with the other weapons, boosting your intelligence is going to make this even stronger. Strength as well, because it scales off both of them quite good. But the biggest downfall is the fact that it does weigh 20. So if you have a look, the Royal Greatsword, which is the third and final weapon we looked at, 892. The Dark Moon Greatsword is 741, and Death's Poker is 598. So base attack is 892 with the Royal Greatsword. So if we come out here, we find any enemy. So even you, light attack, 1061. And this guy, honestly, just go away, leave me alone. So we dealt over 1000 damage with just one light attack. But you'll see 892, 741 and 598. If we then use Golden Val, remember it's 892, we go back in, that's already up to 1026 for the Royal Greatsword. And then, if we use the Flask of Wondrous Physic, that goes up to 1175. Armament number 3, so Death's Poker doesn't go up a lot. I mean, like, his base isn't anywhere near as high. It is like 450 lower than the Royal Greatsword. But if I come over and I do a standard attack, just a right bumper, 1400 damage. It's crazy how powerful these greatswords are. And just the fact that it scales with an intelligence build, I think the Royal Greatsword is my favourite, just because of that really, really high attack power. Not only that, the FP cost on Wolf's Assault and the move itself is really cool, is only 20. It's half of the Moonlight Greatsword on the Dark Moon Greatsword, and there's only 5 more than the initial cost of Ghost Flame Ignition. But not only that, the stats are not too high. If you look at the 38 intelligence for the Dark Moon Greatsword, Death's Poker, yeah, is quite low, but I'd say this is out of the 3, probably the worst one. It's got a really cool skill to use, but I just prefer the other 2. It doesn't really, I feel as though Greatsword was the wrong category of weapon for Death's Poker. But they're not bad weapons by any means, any of the 3. Death's Poker and Dark Moon Greatsword have a frost build-up, which is really, really good in this game. But overall, I think my winner, I think it literally goes in this order. I think Death's Poker out of the 3 is the worst for me. Dark Moon Greatsword middle, just because of that arc you get to fire completely free of FP cost once you spend the initial 40. And obviously, Ikari and Filigreed Crest, you can bring that down to 30. But then the Royal Greatsword, 20 FP cost, really cool move when you pull off that skill, scales with strength and intelligence, attribute requirements are not too high, and it's really, really powerful. But I mean, you do kind of expect that. It weighs 20. It's a really heavy greatsword, but I think it makes up for it in its power. I absolutely love this weapon, but what we are going to do is leave the video there. That was a look at 3 more of the best intelligence weapons for any intelligence build in Elden Ring. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about these weapons in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed it.